In February 2020, the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency Act was signed into law. This brought ZIDA to life. Now, what exactly is ZIDA and why do we need it? The Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency is a statutory body that was born from an act of parliament. Its biggest job is the promotion and protection of investments in Zimbabwe. ZIDA exists to make it easier for a business to invest in the country. ZIDA is a one-stop shop for local and foreign investors. What does this mean? Here's what was happening before. Before ZIDA, investors had to deal with many different agencies. These included the Zimbabwe Investment councils.
Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Okay, I can see a few more people logging in, so I think we'll just allow them a few more seconds to just log in. All right, greetings once again. I know we are joined by people from all over the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Owen Mavengere. I'm going to be your moderator for today. So before we start, I just wanted to go through a few housekeeping rules. So this webinar, you will find that you have been automatically muted by the system. We would like you to post your questions in the Q&A and your comments in the chat box. We want it to be as interactive as possible, so please feel free to engage. I think the title is Engagement Series, so please feel free to engage with us as much as you can, to engage with the senior officials that we have on the call. So I think without further ado, allow me to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of ICAZ, Mrs. Gloria Sharavani. She's quite a long profile, and in the interest of time, my apologies, I'm just going to hand over the virtual podium without necessarily going through it. Madam Sharavani, over to you. Please take the virtual podium.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Owen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for connecting into this engagement series. We've been looking forward to having something like this for a very long time because we feel the importance of engaging with the diaspora as far as matters relating to our economy, as far as matters relating to investment into our beautiful country, Zimbabwe. So this is an opportunity that we've had, and it's a series that we're going to be running. This one we termed the Americas because of time zone issues. We wanted to accommodate those that are in the Americas, but we do know that some of you could be joining from outside of America, but we welcome you. And we've got an esteemed panel of speakers who are going to be talking to us today, but as Owen has said, we underscore the term engagement. The whole idea is we want to talk to issues of our economy and your participation as Zimbabweans living in the diaspora, as well as how you can participate in terms of investment options available for you in Zimbabwe. So the Institute of Chartered Accountants is partnered with the Zimbabwe Investment Development Authority, as well as the Securities Exchange to bring to you this diaspora engagement series. So today I have a task of introducing to you our esteemed panelists, and I want to welcome the Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance, Honorable Chidua. Welcome to the platform. I also want to welcome His Excellency the Ambassador of the Republic of Zimbabwe to the United States of America, Ambassador Chifamba. I would like to also welcome the CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, Mr. Vazo Chinamo, and I want to welcome Mr. Tino Kambasha, who is representing the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency. And lastly, I want to welcome the ICAZ Senior Vice President, who is also resident in the diaspora. So he will speak also representing the diaspora voice today. So thank you very much for connecting. And without much ado, I'll hand back over to Owen to carry on with the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sharawani. Okay, so we've got a very packed program, so I think we'll get straight into it. His Excellency, he has been introduced. Your Excellency, please take the virtual podium.
Well, thanks a lot, Owen. Good evening and good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking the organizers of the Diaspora Investment Engagement Series, which is aimed at raising awareness of our investment opportunities and processes to our diaspora. This initiative is both opportune and welcome, as it coincides with the review of the 2016 diaspora policy by government, which is pushing for inclusive economic growth and ensuring no Zimbabwean, whether at home or abroad, is left behind. Government wants to ensure the development of a comprehensive diaspora policy that addresses some of the key issues not covered by the existing 2016 diaspora policy, such as legal clarity on the issue of dual citizenship, the question of diaspora voting, as well as facilitating diaspora investments in Zimbabwe, among others. The Zimbabwe Embassy in the US has already embarked on serious diaspora engagement and has so far undertaken 2 diaspora outreach programs to Dallas, where we have the highest concentration of Zimbabwean diaspora. As you are aware, diaspora annual remittances are now exceeding 1 billion per annum. However, most of these remittances are going into consumption spending. There is need to expose our diaspora to the myriad of investment opportunities in Zimbabwe and to fully integrate them in the national development process and the attainment of Vision 2030. This outreach program being launched here today and focusing on investment opportunities in the financial and capital markets is very welcome, as it addresses the missing link in the investment promotion discourse. Previous initiatives have tended to focus on the real sector, but there is also a critical link between the real sector and the financial and capital markets for efficiency. As your ambassador to the USA, I'm naturally pleased that the organizers have chosen to start this diaspora engagement series with the USA-based Zimbabwean diaspora. They lead in remittance contributions and can equally lead in the area of diaspora investment into Zimbabwe. In our interactions with them, it is very clear that the US-based diaspora is watching closely Zimbabwe's economic recovery and growth, and are keen to play their part in contributing towards bringing new investments into Zimbabwe. They clearly understand that their show of confidence through their investments in Zimbabwe will inspire American FDI to follow suit. They have indicated their readiness to harness their networks and access to affordable finance and technology to invest in the following sectors: health, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, mining, manufacturing, ICT, cybersecurity, film industry, tourism and hospitality, telecoms, cosmetics, among others. Yet it goes without saying that we have to address convincingly the elephant in the room, and that is the perilously low levels of confidence in Zimbabwe's financial institutions and markets by citizens both at home and abroad. They have raised a number of issues on which they need some assurances and guarantees, and these relate to the following. They have a fear that the economy might regress into hyperinflation and currency volatility. They want assurances on whether they can repatriate profits and dividends. They have expressed concern on the need for policy consistency because in their view, frequent policy changes will affect whether a person can take an investment decision. They also are questioning whether there are any investment protection guarantees in place, and also whether there are any special incentives for diaspora investments. I'm glad that the fiscal and monetary reforms are beginning to bear fruit, and that the Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance and Economic Planning is on this panel to highlight the sustainability and policy consistency underpinning the reform efforts, as well as the positive trajectory of Zimbabwe's economic recovery, growth, and development. ZIDA, which is a critical partner in this initiative, is also on hand to give assurance on the investment guarantees as well as investment opportunities available in Zimbabwe. We have a number of chartered accountants working in corporate America and who own their own businesses. ICAZ is a critical partner in this initiative to reach out to this constituency and whose views are highly considered by American and Zimbabwean diaspora investors on whether or not it is safe to invest in Zimbabwe. Finally, the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, as the regulators of capital markets, play a key role in the regulation of the market. This therefore marks the start of a long journey. It's not just an event, but is the beginning of a sustainable process of robust engagement. I hope that as soon as the COVID situation allows, we will jointly embark on some roadshows for in-person engagement with our diaspora. I look forward to a very rewarding session, and I thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I think you've really set the tone for us, and you're absolutely right in that it's a long journey of engagement. You know, the two-way communication is going to be very vital to really get this discussion going, and so that we can really see positive impact on our nation. You know, you spoke about the networks, the rich networks that the diaspora community has. You know, that will really benefit a lot. It doesn't necessarily have, in all instances, to be an investment of money, but, you know, these networks, opening of these doors and links and global links are very vital. And I think you also touched on the elephants, the big elephants in the room. I think that is definitely very refreshing for those in the diaspora to hear, because, you know, even during informal engagements, you hear these questions. You know, when I was informally engaging with some of my colleagues, they actually highlighted to say, will that be touched on? And I said, yes, it will. Please join and you'll hear for yourself. And I think it's very refreshing here. And I think, like you rightfully said, it's the start of a long journey, maybe for the benefit of everyone. You know, these engagements are going to be done all across the world. So I hope that this really is the correct tone that we've set. And thank you so much, Ambassador. I think without further ado, I am going to hand over the virtual podium to Honorable Chudua, our Deputy Minister of Finance. Honorable, the virtual podium is yours.
Thank you so much, Owen. Let me write on the protocols that have been observed already. And I would want to express my pleasure in participating in this diaspora engagement series, as it gives us an opportunity as government to engage with our brothers and sisters. Very important exercise for us as a government. And I would like to begin my address by highlighting the importance of engaging the diaspora in our national development agenda. And I'm sure quite a number of us on this platform, we know that we are being guided by the vision which was set by His Excellency, which is the Vision 2030. And now, as part of realizing the vision, now we have got the National Development Strategy 1, which we are also implementing in the form of programs and budgets. So having looked at the contributions that are coming from the diaspora, we have seen that the diaspora is emerging as a significant source of financial, intellectual, and social capital to our development process. We have seen that, and this is why we are on this platform, for us to appreciate the good work that is coming from our diaspora, for us to engage so that we can reap the benefits of their being outside Zimbabwe, which we can tap and enhance our development process. This engagement is a clear signal of government with the diaspora communities to capitalize on their potential for development. This has been highlighted by Ambassador Chifamba, that the development potential that is coming from our diaspora is very critical, and we need to harness it. I would want to bring to the attention of on this webinar that at continental level, it is estimated that nearly 140 million Africans are living outside the African continent and contributing an average of 53 billion US dollars per annum as savings. 2012 Africa Development Bank report, it notes that an estimated 30 million Africans have joined the developed world in recent years, while it's keeping strong ties with their homeland. And this is very characteristic of Zimbabweans, that wherever they are connected to their homeland. And I would again want to bring you to your attention to these statistics again from ICAZ 2017, where it is reported that remittances to Africa increased by
Okay. Apologies for that. Deputy Minister, you can continue. He's back now. You're on mute, please continue.
And then, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, Honorable. Please go ahead.
Yes, so I was saying the reports highlight that 40% of the total remittances flows go to rural areas, and that's benefiting the agricultural economy, creating employment and improving food security. And if you then look domestically, and then we try and link the flows to our national vision of being an empowered and prosperous upper middle income economy as is being implemented under the NDS. We have got 14 pillars, and almost all the pillars, we have got a role that can be played by our diaspora. So we are looking at economic growth and stability. Again, we are saying we are targeting a GDP growth of 5%. The diasporas have got a role to play in that. Then you look at infrastructure development. The diaspora have got a role to play. Food security, value chain systems, utilities, the digital economy. All these, if you look closely, you will see that we have got opportunities that can actually be harnessed by our diaspora. So the government is well aware that a number of our citizens who are living abroad, they've got a strong desire to engage and contribute to the social and economic development of their country. So the development is very critical, and we are saying in the development matrix of the country, how then do we move forward and ensure that the diasporans, they play a role in the development of the country. So we are looking now at the diaspora as a vehicle for transferring resources, transferring technology, the knowledge, the ideas. These are the technology, the ideas, and the knowledge that are very critical in the socio-economic development of the country. And we would want to see to it that we maximize the full potential of what we can harness from the financial investment, the networks, and the skills that are coming from the diaspora. Looking at the presentation by His Excellency Shifamba, he mentioned that we've got in excess of 1 billion that are coming into the country as remittances. But for this year alone, we are looking at a minimum of 1.5 billion US dollars in remittances by year end. And all these are coming in to support families and other investments. You can look at the case of Ethiopia, you can look at the case of Somalia. These are cases where we are also seeing large flows of remittances in Africa. So diaspora investment then becomes very critical in complementing and also as the alternative sources of financing locally. And again, we are looking at investment that can be deployed in agriculture, in mining, in manufacturing, infrastructure development, value addition, as I've mentioned, that these are all pillars under the National Development Strategy 1. There is an issue which has been raised, especially with regards to the economy. The economy is on a rebound. If you check, we are projecting an economic growth of 7.8%. And this, except for Djibouti, this by African standards, and we look at our regional peers, is actually the highest post-COVID. And we are saying this is showing that our economy is on a rebound, and we are very bullish about the future. And the economy is not going to regress into inflation. I think it's one area that has been mentioned, that are we sure that we are going to maintain the downward trend on the inflation rate? Yes. As of last year, we were on 837% in July for the inflation rate, but we are now on 50.4%. And we are projecting that by year end, we should be between 35 and 45%. And that, because of the fiscal discipline that we have, because of the monetary policy instruments that we are implementing, we see that the inflation rate will continue to go down. And then with regards to repatriation, again, there is no going back, and we've put in place mechanisms to ensure that investors are able to repatriate profits back. And we are looking at the operations of the Dutch auction, and so far, in terms of repatriation of dividends, we have allocated, I think, around 143 million US dollars, and this is continuing. And we are also having the Victoria Falls exchange. This again is going to be reported, I think, by Chinamo. But again, this is an opportunity that can also be used to repatriate profits without any problems. So going forward, for us as a government, we are saying we are not going to go back, especially with regards to policy consistency, because we know that this is a very important consideration that is taken into account by investors. So I would want to assure our diasporans that the Second Republic, when it comes to policy consistency, that is non-negotiable. So going forward, we are saying, let's come together as Zimbabweans. So in conclusion, I would want to mention that the country is open for business. This is a mantra that has been put in place by His Excellency, and I would want to encourage our diaspora who are in the Americas to seriously consider investment opportunities that are back home. And we would want to ensure you that, because we now have got a diaspora desk, which is under Minister of Foreign Affairs, we are going to assist you. We are going to provide solutions and ensure that your investments are going to be safe. You will be able to repatriate profit where there is need. And this is your motherland. Come back home, assist, and the government is ready to engage. Thank you so much. I submit.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Being an accountant, I particularly like the statistics that you were throwing around there. 140 million people, 53 billion, 1.5 billion in remittances. That's very impressive. I think that's really going to make a huge impact. And one wonders how big that number can grow if there's concerted effort in deliberately trying to direct it to something of note in terms of our economy. And you highlighted that the diaspora does have a role to play in each of the pillars of the NDS. And again, you reiterated the fact that the diaspora is a source of financial, intellectual, and social capital. The network and skills that they have, we need to transfer them back home. And of course, you are just the big elephant, in terms of the repatriation. I want to talk about the VFX. You teased it a bit there, but it's coming. It's going to be spoken about in greater detail by the CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. And then, of course, you spoke about how over 143 million has been repatriated to the diaspora through dividends. So I think definitely that those are very good initiatives in terms of people being able to recoup their proceeds, from whatever investment or venture they would have gotten into. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you, this is an engagement. Please feel free to make use of the question and answer. We are going to dedicate a couple of minutes to that. In fact, we actually have a bias towards the question and answer, so that it's really a two-way engagement. So please feel free to post your questions there as we proceed. I know obviously it will get more active as more presentations come through, but feel free to immediately start. The Q&A is there, it's at your disposal. And then moving on, we are about to hear from ZIDA. So apologies, the CEO, Doug Munatsi, is out of the country and he was being called to an emergency meeting. So we do have Tinotenda Kambasha, the Chief Investments and Corporate Affairs Officer. He's going to take us through the ZIDA presentation. On the call as well, we have Duduzi Leshinya. Some of you know her, she's the immediate past president and the acting Chief Operating Officer. She's also on the call to assist. But in terms of the presentation, I am going to hand over the virtual podium to Tinotenda Kambasha, and he will take us through the ZIDA presentation. Tino, over to you.
Thanks very much, Owen. Can you see my screen out there?
You confirmed, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'd like to just ride on all the protocols, acknowledging both His Excellency and the Honorable Minister, and all those present. Thank you very much for having us. This engagement started between the three different institutions, where we were having a side chat on how we need to really engage the diaspora in a meaningful and in a way that actually makes sense. So this is the first, like has been mentioned, of many that are to come. And we think that it's quite important that we discuss and we basically don't look at policy or any of these things in isolation. So I'm going to just basically take you through a quick rundown, and I would like my acting COO, Duduzile, if she needs to come in. And she generally would have done this presentation, but because she's your past president and it's a bit too soon, so I thought maybe let me take over the presentation. So this is the outline. Economic progression, basically giving you a background of where we are, what we're trying to do, and what we've achieved. A lot of things are happening in the background that have happened and haven't come to the forefront because of whether it's just general noise that's happening in the background, or we can't really see what's happening. We thought maybe we need to make a bit more noise, and we will be giving you these statistics on a more regular basis. And we'll give you a breakdown of how we think this engagement will go going forward. And then talk about Zimbabwe's investment destination. The majority of people on this platform already know that. So it's just maybe just a bit of a reminder of why we think that we can compete on a global stage and where we think we're going. And then the background of ZIDA, just to give you just a brief background, where we came from and where we're going. Investment opportunities, and then supporting regional trade. So I'll move on to that. So a lot of work has been happening in the background. So some people might know of the ease of doing business, World Bank ranking. This is how Zimbabwe has fared throughout the years. And you'd have seen a deliberate effort, like starting from 2016 up until where we are now. Unfortunately, because of COVID last year, there wasn't any ranking that was done. So it started again in June, starting July this year. So we have efforts in doing this. So the ease of doing business is a set way of measuring this on a global scale, on a fair platform. So simple things like starting a company, getting electricity, paying taxes, ease of trade and so forth. So it really touches quite a lot of different sectors and is all inclusive. So what the government has done is, through initially the Office of the President and Cabinet, they used to hold meetings and measure these ranks on a weekly basis, and then amalgamate them, report them back to the ministers, who then report them back to the president. And now we've been handed over this. This is one of our key mandates as ZIDA, is the ease of doing business, amongst other things, which I'll get into when I get to the ZIDA side. So just to let you know how we're ranking in Africa, all right? It's quite shocking to a lot of people how well we've done in recent years. Of course, we're coming from a very low base, and we completely understand that. So we can't really toot our horn too much, but a lot of effort has gone. I mean, to have that movement up in percentage of 14%, when your likes of Mauritius at 7%, and other peers like Rwanda were actually down 9% the last time they measured this. I think we're doing quite well. Again, coming from a low base, but we've got a lot of gaining to do, and we're quite confident we can do that also through engagement with the likes of the diaspora. And this slide here just basically showing the gross national income per capita, which was on an upward trajectory up until we hit COVID. And we're hoping that is going to rebound up. Things have opened up a bit in Zimbabwe. Our vaccination drive has been pretty good. And I think in Africa, we rank amongst one of the top countries. And it's just an initiative just to show how well the government actually just initially ran with the program and put the boots on the ground and started vaccinating people. So currently now we're at level 2. So, you know, we've got our still limited hours, not as bad as it was before. So it's almost normal working hours with some limitations in traveling beyond 10 o'clock in the evening and 5:30 in the morning. And obviously having to adhere to COVID-19 protocols, wearing masks, sanitization, temperature checks, and vaccination cards. So I think this slide over here really means the most to this audience. So even from a ZIDA point of view, if you look at that logo, that's on your top left-hand corner. Each color represents a different sector, whether it's mining, agriculture, tourism, you know, so energy and so forth. So you'd get like mining would be the yellow, you know, agriculture would be that light green and so forth. So why we even chose this gem, and it's a specifically different cut of gem and it's unique, is that we also believe that the gem is the people of Zimbabwe. No matter where you go in the world, there's one thing that is unanimous. Doesn't matter what country, doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter who you speak to, the people of Zimbabwe are just a special type of people. They're hardworking, they're well-spoken, they're educated, they're polite, and they're good team players. So we realize that the number one asset that we have above platinum, gold, and all the other minerals is the actual people of Zimbabwe. And which is what made us really, really want to jump at this opportunity, is that for us to engage in the diaspora, understanding that, you know, even when we look at exports, the biggest export that we have in terms of actual value that it brings, not only monetary, but support, you know, even whether it's emotional, financial, it's the diaspora. So the biggest asset that we definitely recognize is the people of Zimbabwe. And then obviously we've got abundant natural resources, third largest reserves of platinum in the world, second largest gold reserves per square meter in the world, and huge lithium reserves, which we've just really started tapping into. And if you've been following the media, ZIDA actually has a special economic zone that has started exporting raw lithium out. Obviously later on, we're going to need to do some value addition and so forth. But you know, it's started and it's gaining quite a lot of momentum there. And then we've obviously got a good climate. You all know that. Zimbabwe, if you haven't been watching the media, has also ventured into medicinal cannabis because it's such a great place in terms of climate. And you'd be surprised the type of investors that we have so far. We've got 57 new licenses that we've issued out. Out of those, I think about 15 are operational on the ground in terms of actually producing. And the investors that we have are very diverse. We've got the British, we've got Canadians, you know, people from the Netherlands. So very diverse people looking into Zim, where you would have thought that, you know, maybe they would have shied away because of Zim and Zim's market. And of course, another thing that we always forget is our geographical location and how central we are within SADC. So even when you look at Zim, our connectivity, yes, you know, we can try and bypass, you know, through various means, but if we really, and we are working on our roads currently, you know, Zim is a central place and you can reach most of SADC and into the greater Africa from a central point of view. This is quite strategic because as ZIDA, we're now looking at even marketing ourselves as a manufacturing hub. So just for an example, if you look at Mutare, it is so close to Beira. You know, we're so close to the ocean and it's like literally 140 or 160 kilometers to the sea. So if we really work hard and we really set up those special economic zones within Mutare, we definitely could become a hub of manufacturing into the rest of Africa. We could lure in all those big international manufacturing companies, your Nestle's and so forth. So it's something that we're working on. Obviously, a lot of work still needs to go into that, but we've got our eyes on the prize. So going back to the background of ZIDA, where did ZIDA come from? So ZIDA came into existence following the promulgation of the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency Act. That was in February 2020 last year. So unfortunately, we were born during COVID, and at the height of COVID as it just began, and people were scared to travel and so forth, or even gather. So we kind of started, we were born within this scenario, which has had its pros and its cons. Obviously, as a team, would have wanted to get together sooner, gel quicker, employ the people that we needed to, but it just took way longer, way into early 2021. But also it made us be born in an environment that was decentralized, that was paperless, that had to, that had teams that had to work from home or from different areas. And it also made us see that even as we form a team in ZIDA, or even in the greater Zimbabwe area, whether we're talking about public-private partnerships or joint ventures with government, for you to provide a service to this country, you don't need to physically be here. So we can tap into the skills and the knowledge that the diaspora has. And this was made, it came to the forefront because of COVID-19. So through the act, the agency consolidated 4 different entities that came into one. So ZIMSEZA was basically your special economic zones, and those were being managed separately. And then you had the Zimbabwe Investment Authority, which is basically, and I'll get into it, which is basically now our general investment section, which is just licensing investors coming in, whether they're private, and so forth, or doing JVs. And then we have the One-Stop Investment Service Center. This used to sit under the Office of the President and Cabinet, that is now also under ZIDA. And then you have the Joint Ventures Unit, which was sitting under the Ministry of Finance. So basically, these were all silo, different operations that were happening. And you'd get duplication of things happening. You've got duplication of management, duplication of expenses. And there's no one central place to push one central agenda. So out of this is where ZIDA then came out. And now everything is in one place. And as we go forward, I think we'll be able to pronounce that better. And we'll be doing workshops on each. This is the first one, we're just giving an overview. We'll do different workshops as we go along on each section and everything that we do actually provide. So ZIDA's investment ecosystem. So ZIDA's role can broadly be described as promoting, planning, and implementing investment promotion strategies. So promoting, planning, and implementing investment promotion strategies. We get confused sometimes to being is some sort of an investment bank or that type of service. But our main agenda is basically those are the pillars that we have: promoting, planning, and implementing investment promotion strategies, facilitating entry and implementation of investment projects. And I'd like to emphasize that in all our facilitation, and the ZIDA Act specifically says that foreigners and locals, we treat you the same. And which is why also we really need to engage the diaspora. There's a sense of feeling that there is some sort of preferential treatment to the foreigners rather than to the locals. If anything, we should be actually promoting our local diasporans to invest better. And we are looking at different ways and different types of instruments, whether they're diaspora bonds and giving you incentives, because we don't feel that we should be preferential to foreigners rather than to people of our own kind who are in the diaspora. The next point there is to establish and regulate special economic zones. I'll get a little bit more into that in the next slide. To promote, appraise, and recommend private-public partnerships, those are triple Ps. And then this is quite important, this investor aftercare and monitoring projects. The issue that we had in the past was that projects would happen or people would promise to bring X amount. What we're doing at ZIDA is we're actually quantifying everything. So if you're saying that you're bringing in a project of, let's say, $10 million over the next 5 years, we're gonna hold you to account at every time you come back next year. We want to monitor and say, okay, where is this new investment? Where is this and that? And if you don't, we simply just cancel our license and do not renew it. And then also aftercare is also listening to the investors and understanding what their problems are and listening to them and getting their feedback and telling us what's wrong with investments within Zimbabwe. So that also helps us understand where we are lacking and where we are also coming a bit short, and we can fix that. So that aftercare service is quite important. And then promoting decentralization of investment activities in line with the country's devolution thrust. So as ZIDA, and I think from next week, as we kick into Dubai Expo 2020, you'll see we've got quite a lot of promotional material that we put together for the country. And part of that is a decentralized mapping of the country. So in terms of, let's pick a sector like agriculture. We've got a whole section in the prospectus that talks about the soil types, the rain types, and all the certain different areas. So if you're in Mash Central, what crops are good to grow? What are the pH types of the soil? If it's mining, what minerals are there? What quality are they? And then, we're linking up with the types of your ZIM trades to say, okay, fine, we've got this mineral. Which country has the most demand for it? And then we're linking everything up. So it's quite a very honest process, but we believe that if we continue on this thrust, we will start making some progress soon. So basically, ZIDA is broken up into these different sections. So when we license an entity, they're licensed based on these 3 different entities. So the public-private partnership, those are your normal triple Ps. So any contract you're trying to get into with government falls under triple P. So wherever there's a state asset or anything that the state owns, or you're trying to partner up the state, that's a triple P. They come in 2 different forms, solicited and unsolicited. So there are projects that as a government that we want to do, and there are projects that then individuals then look for and then come to government and say, this is what we want to do. So those are the 2 different types. And we will have a whole webinar on that. I'm just wary of time. I don't want to get into too much detail. And then special economic zones, right? So these are geographically demarcated and secured areas, within which multi-sectorial businesses and investors are conducted under a liberal legislative framework. So if we want to push an agenda, if we want to push exports, if we want to push skills transfer, if we want to push employment, we would make a special economic zone specifically tailored into pushing a specific agenda that has a general good. And when we look at special economic zones, we're not only just looking at financial benefits to the country, we're looking, like I mentioned, skills transfer, knowledge transfer, mechanical knowledge transfer as well, and amongst a whole lot of other things. So going forward as ZIDA, we've decided to really home in on how we manage our special economic zones and really focus on the end goal going forward. And also enjoying obviously certain fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. So these could fall under VAT, corporate tax and so forth. So yeah, and then I think these will all have individual webinars to talk about exactly what we're doing. And then your general investments. So these are just private investors coming through who want to enjoy the protection that you get under the ZIDA Act. And I'd like to encourage you to go onto the ZIDA website, download the Act, zidainvest.com. It shows you all the protections that you have from appropriation of land, security of your funds being ring-fenced and so forth. So there's quite a lot of protections and incentives that ZIDA can provide for you. So over here, again, out of interest of time, I'm just going to browse through, and a lot of you already know what opportunities are here. So in agriculture, the fertile land, over 32 million hectares, rich agricultural land, excellent diverse climate, investment opportunities. So there's financing on the side of agriculture, right? So we've looked at it to say that not everyone is a farmer, right? Not everyone knows or is willing to get onto the land and till, but we've got the financing side of things, which can obviously assist in that, and is actually reaping quite a lot of returns currently. Potential greenfields, also projects, Toko Nkosi, I was there recently, a beautiful body of water, I think the biggest inland body of water that we have in Zimbabwe, and water sitting there, and I think my brother here Kanyemba area, and so forth. So fiscal incentives, I think I talked about that. The mining opportunities, we all know, what we have in the ground, major mineral deposits, your Great Dyke, your coal-bed methane areas, and so forth. I won't get into detail, and all the investment opportunities that are there, which is also including value addition, cutting and polishing, and so forth. So yeah, opportunities in tourism are abundant. Our wildlife is amazing. Investment opportunities are great. Victoria Falls is becoming it's probably going to be one of the major centers in Zimbabwe. We're also looking at setting up international financial center there, which could be absolutely great for us to have like a Mauritius type of investment vehicle within Zimbabwe. And then also we've demarcated it a special economic zone. So you can enjoy all the special economic zone stuff that you have from Victoria Falls all the way down through to Masue. And of course, there's the ecotourism, which is quite popular in first world countries. Opportunities in infrastructure, we all know our rail and road, electricity, industrial, agricultural areas, dams, and so forth. I think, yeah, again, everyone on this platform understands that. And then opportunities in manufacturing. Of course, we've got a great skills set of people, and the resurgence of the sector. It's going to be a big rebound, and it's going to be a big contributor to the country's GDP. And of course, a lot of value addition and investment opportunities as we go along, and value add in canning and processing of products. And then again, digital economy. I think Zimbabwe is on a great thrust right now. We've seen a couple of call centers opening up here in Zimbabwe, Joina City. So people understanding that, you know, when you take a call, and for some of you also in the States, you know, when you call someone, or you call your AT&T and you get you know, a deep Indian accent or something, it kind of throws you off. I think Zimbabweans have got a relatively moderate British type of accent, so it makes it great. And then also, you know, with our time zones and stuff, it's not too bad. So yeah, Zimbabwe's got those opportunities, and we can leapfrog the digital world and not necessarily go through the steps that everybody else has gone through, and we can jump forward and become, you know, the I don't know, the service hub of Africa if we do it well. We're not scared to dream big. We're not scared to think further from a ZIDA point of view. And you know, together with government and the arms of government, you know, we're looking forward to giving you a great service. I guess I'll end there. Owen, are you happy? Maybe let me just give you a shot of my face for 2 seconds. Great. Thank you very much. I guess we'll get the questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tino. Ladies and gentlemen, the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency there. Quite a mouthful. I think the key highlights there is the combination of those bodies into one. So essentially that means, you know, you don't have to hop from office to office as much as probably you used to in the past, because it's all housed under one roof. That is something that should definitely add to the convenience. And I think credit to ZIDA. I think obviously, yes, you acknowledge we are starting from a low base, but jumping so many places. And I think if we keep the trajectory, we should be where we need to be in the near future. So maybe just, you know,
sorry, Owen, can I just add that, sorry, I left a key point about ZIDA there. My COO might be very upset at me. We have a one-stop investment service center. So everything you need, like you just mentioned, whether it's ZIMRA, Ministry of Mines, EMA, any of those bodies that you need to deal with, we've got them all at ZIDA in one stop. Physically, we've got people sitting in our offices. So I think that's quite important. Whenever you want to deal with investments, you don't need to go to any ministry. You don't need to go see anyone at no cost. You can come to us, we'll help. Thank you.
Thank you, Tino. Very important point there. You know, so that means you can essentially register a company, get your licenses, register with ZIMRA, talk to the Ministry of Mines, talk to like literally everyone in one place. Now I'm going to preempt a question, because someone in the Q&A spoke about how they spent 6 weeks, you know, hopping from office to office. But now you've got one office that does everything for you. So I think that is a huge development or in that on the investment front, the one-stop center, one-stop investment center.
One-stop investment service center.
One-stop investment service center. I think, ladies and gentlemen, please quote that. That's a very important thing. It's a very important development there. So I think with that, on that bombshell, I think we can move on from ZIDA. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to now hand over the virtual podium to Tafadzwa Shinamo, the CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. Over to you, sir. The virtual podium is yours.
Thank you for the introduction and a very good evening, good morning to everybody. I trust you can all hear me well. As I was introduced, my name is Tafadzwa Shinamo. I'm the CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. I've got with me in this conference the head of our investor education and corporate communications for IMPOF. So should the opportunity allow, I may call upon it to also assist me in this. But it certainly is something that we've talked about for a long time, that how do we reach out to all those Zimbabweans out there? I think the ambassador and the deputy minister gave us the stats that, it's just a lot of people out there and the potential is so huge. But basically, I'm hoping that I'm not boring you, with the basics, but it's always good to understand what the commission is here to do and why we exist. But essentially, the Securities and Exchange Commission is the regulatory body set up in 2008 by the government to oversee the smooth running and development of our capital markets. Now, capital markets essentially, as the name suggests, you all being accountants, you all deal with capital on the statement of, on the balance sheets, capital, equity, and so forth is it's a big issue, be it equity capital, be it debt by way of bonds and so forth. So essentially the capital markets deals with giving access to the productive sector. It could be private companies, state institutions, could be government, access to capital from people or a set of the population with savings. And the way they do that is that they come through these markets, and the markets are run or operated by what we call securities market intermediaries. So institutions like stock exchanges, stock brokers, asset managers, financial advisors, custodians, trustee, all of those are securities market intermediaries, whose purpose is to ensure that this capital that savers have is allocated to the productive sector. So this is why capital markets exist. And our landscape right now, or our ecosystem, we essentially got 2 stock exchanges. In terms of stock brokers, we have licensed stock broking firms, there's 21. Number of individuals licensed as stock brokers, 47. We've got 21 asset managers as well. And they also run in their own capacities, a total of 54 unit trust funds. Being in America, you may be now used to the term mutual funds. It's exactly the same thing, but here we tend to use the term unit trust funds. We also have one ETF or exchange traded fund. We also have licensed recently 2 real estate investment trusts. They haven't launched it, but I'm certain before the end of this year, they will also have launched. So there's a host of other players. We've got a central securities depository. We've got transfer secretaries as well. And so it's an ecosystem that is there to ensure that everything functions well. So in terms of our role, really, is to make sure that everybody in this ecosystem plays well. We are responsible for coming up with laws that we believe are best for this ecosystem, the rules of the game, licensing who can play, and ensuring that whenever there's any issues in terms of violations of these laws, we step in at the right moment and make sure that we correct that situation. So I think just from the background I've given you, it's already clear that capital markets are very important in this country. One big thing that our productive sector, even the government side as well, do not have right now is capital. And when you're speaking of capital right now, you speak to any business person here, when they're looking for a loan for investors, they're looking for hard currency, right? So, and the sort of currency they're looking for is a patient capital. I'm talking here medium to long term. You know, businesses in this country have been through so much that where we're coming from, I think, has taken away a lot of the effect that they have. So they really need that incubation or that patience to give them a chance to find themselves and grow again. So it's not the sort of capital where you invest for 6 months or a year and so forth, but we're looking for more long term. And so essentially capital markets exist for that, because capital markets, by definition, we're talking of equity capital, where as an investor, you're buying a part of a company by acquiring shares of that company. Alternatively, you're also buying bonds issued by this company, and bonds by nature are long-term money market investments or fixed income investments. So this is what this country needs right now. And the Honorable Deputy Minister spoke just now about Vic4 Stock Exchange. It was created essentially to provide a platform for the private sector to go and offer their securities, these bonds and equity shares on this platform, and in turn receive or raise US dollars. It can still be done on our Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, but this particular platform was set up especially for this hard currency, favoring obviously companies, or rather being suited obviously for companies that are generating foreign currency, in the sense that because their income is denominated mainly, or rather they're mainly exporting companies, they're in foreign currency, paying dividends would also not be a burden on them to be satisfied. So, like I said, foreign direct investment is the answer. In our case, we talk of portfolio investments, where someone is coming in to invest in structures that are already in existence. So it's different from what was speaking about, where you're looking at infrastructure, where you're coming in, getting your hands dirty and so forth. Here, we are talking about you investing in something that's already been packaged for you, be it going straight on the stock market, to unit trusts, through real estate investment trusts, whatever it is, we're looking at something that's already in play and in motion. And when we speak of foreign investors now, and I saw some of the questions on the chat, capital markets actually have had foreign investors since this country opened up to foreign investors in 1995. That was around ESAP. And foreign investors in the
Okay. Mr. Shinama is having a network challenge.
Have been the main drive-generated activity on our stock diaspora. Themselves. You are the foreign investors, right? And the mechanisms are there. Our exchanges, our brokers, our asset managers have dealt with large portfolio investors. You name any big asset management company in the US, in South Africa, in England, in Dubai, in the Middle East. At some point or other, those people have invested in our markets here. They see this market as being very attractive, very well run, right? Other things that we boast about, which other African markets don't have, is the depth. I mean, we have the history. This market has been on since 1893. If you really read the history of this country, it was founded by entrepreneurs, people who wanted to raise money. At some point, they even bought this country from the first colonizers, by issuing bonds and so forth. So that history of capital markets and ensuring that money is raised from public funds, from the general public to fund specific projects is something that goes back many, many, many years. So, I mean, I could go on talk about what we do, but I don't have much time. I only have 10 minutes. But I want to spend the rest of my time just talking to you about why invest in our capital markets at the moment. I don't want to beat my own drum, but I've always challenged anyone, but I'll say that these markets are well regulated. Like I said, they've run for over 100 years. When the commission came in around 2008, it found a system that was working. So improving on that became very, very easy. We also modernize now, so you can literally trade on these markets from your phone, wherever you are in the world, from your desktop. If you prefer phoning a broker, again, they're all well connected via the internet. They've got good websites. The information, and there's also depth, okay, in the sense that you are not alone. Like I said, you are joining a pool of a lot of other foreign investors who are experienced, but also locally. We are talking in total active investors on our markets right now. And I'm talking here just stock markets and those that are dealing with fund managers is about 65,000. Why I seem excited about that number, it might not be that exciting because I know certainly before pre-hyperinflation, we're talking of numbers of over 350,000 people who were active in the market. Hyperinflation happened, obviously, that dented a lot of confidence, and around 2009, we had as little as 8,000 people trading actively in these markets, but that number has grown steadily to about 65,000. So I'm saying that it's testament to the fact that we've brought confidence into this market and people are now comfortable investing in this market. And that confidence stems from the fact that the financial sector, we like to isolate ourselves from the general brush that paints it, saying that it's got a checkered history, it's unsafe, banks fail, and so forth. I've been at the commission now 10 years, and we've never had a failure, right? Okay, companies fold and we close them down, and so forth, but not a single one investor has lost money as a result of that. No investor has lost money due to fraud, And so with the systems that we've also put in place, with the network of custodians, banks, custodian banks that we license, the electronic platforms that you are trading on, and so forth, all of these things make it very safe, so not one person is handling your money. As a matter of fact, just by way of an example, if you decide to trade shares on the stock market, you're not going to give your money to a broker. You nominate a custodian bank of your choice. There's 7 licensed banks, and they're all very big, big banks. These are custodians trusted by big fund managers all over the world, so they know what they're doing. And the broker is going to obviously give you advice what shares to buy, what funds to buy, and so forth. Once those deals have been made, the settlement is then done by this custodian. If you don't like the services of the broker, it's very simple to just change brokers, but your custodian doesn't change. Again, that custodian might be holding your cash and so forth, but your your securities are held in the Central Securities Depository. So again, that's a very secure environment. Again, it's electronic. We can literally play back maybe 10, 15 steps or trades back to you becoming an investor of a particular asset. So it's safe in that way. And that's why I'm saying that even fraud right now, it's very difficult to perpetrate because of the structures that we've put in place. Obviously, I'm not saying that you're not going to lose money. I mean, capital markets are risky by nature. I mean, shares are risky. So the losses that you're most likely going to get is obviously the performance of your money, or rather the choice of the investments that you're going to make on that market. But I'll say this also, that's another point that I'll say that you must be investing in this market. The returns have been fantastic. I'm talking just this year alone, up to the end of August. We're talking, this is the stock market and the overall index, which is an aggregation of all the stocks. So in aggregate, they all grew 155%, January to 31st August. Quarter by quarter, if you compare with any other market in Africa, we've trounced them. Now, obviously, one might say that, look, that's in ZIM dollars. But even if you were playing in the parallel market, assuming that the deputy minister is not listening to me right now here. But anyway, assuming you were doing that, right? And you had $100, right? Sorry, you had ZIM dollars, right? And you bought whatever, you changed your money and turned that into US dollars. Alternatively, option 2, you put that money in either unit trust or straight on the stock market. It would have been now 2.5 times more, right, in ZIM dollars. And I'll bet you, if you were to sell that position today, go into the market, be it the black market or parallel market, you would have made much more money than that. These are the sort of returns I'm talking about, right? So the returns have been fantastic. The other thing that I'll also encourage you, why you should come to a market, is that the information is abundant, right? Like I said, there's a whole network of players. Just go to our website, you can see all the players that are there. But also, as a commission, the lady that I said is here in this workshop with me, Farah Mpofu, heads investor education. Through that department, we published a book. I think it's the first book that you see of this nature in the whole world, really. We call it Investor Handbook 101. It's available for download on our website. If you don't like to read, we've literally read every single page of that book, over nearly 300 pages. It's available in audio form. We also have a little drama that we did. So we got professional actors to actually act out the drama of what it takes for an entrepreneur who's struggling to raise capital, to go through the various networks and links and so forth to raise money and ultimately list on an exchange. We also did the radio drama. Again, it's available on our website and YouTube channels. And this is where it's based in where a young man, he's got brilliant ideas, but he doesn't know where to take them. So again, through network for advisors, brokers, and so forth, he raises money. Now, it might be, okay, these might be fluff pieces, yes, we understand. But the point is that it's information that a lot of people don't know about. So we felt that it's important that this information becomes available. So from us, the commission, certainly the information is there. You will not be lost. If you want to see prices of stock prices every day, they are there as well. And then the other thing I would also say is that I know that, okay, from what we heard from the deputy minister, even the ambassador, the remittances back home are fantastic, But just imagine if that money was going to the productive sector, you can really just, be your own man and not depend so much on the IMFs and the World Bank, because that's a lot of money, right? So what better way for you to diversify your portfolio of investments back home? Some of you, maybe a lot of you, have built houses here, which is great. That's property, right? You're going to get your rental income from there. The value of that property might go up, so you're going to gain from that. Maybe some of you are into farming, you bought cattle, you bought other things, you bought equipment and so forth. That's fine. But I'm telling you that with the returns I'm showing you, and these returns that I spoke about, if you go last year as well, we're talking pretty much of the same numbers. So irregardless that we're talking of ZIM dollars here, the returns are certainly worth considering. So that diversification, that you are building a portfolio, that is just more than these other things. And it's the simplest investment you can make. You can track those investments every single day on your phone, right? Switching from this and, from one portfolio to another, is very, very easy. Maybe you don't like to go straight into the market. You don't like the hassle of reading through financial statements, okay, which is ironic. Okay, you are all accountants, so this is second nature to you. But anyway, suppose you don't have the time to then analyze results and so forth. They also unit trusts. We worked with the asset management industry to come up with a monthly publication that shows the performance of all the 54 funds, right? And the numbers again are just fantastic. You're talking of, plus or minus 150% this year for the equity funds, right? some blended ones, okay, that do a bit of property, fixed income and shares, maybe slightly less than that. But that's a very simple way of doing it. And for as little as 500 ZIM dollars, which is nothing really, up to, I know the ones that at the most minimum investment, you're talking about $10,000. But again, it's doable. That can be a very monthly, so you can do that monthly. And so you are just sending money every month. And like I said, it's the simplest form of investment. And I would also say this, that a lot of you are familiar with the Zimbabwean economy. When someone speaks to you of Econet or of a Delta or of an INSCO, you know what they're talking about, right? So again, it's very easy to relate to companies that you grew up knowing, right? And you know their performance, possibly you even know the people that run them, you know. So I would say that maybe for someone who's been in America for the past 2-3 years, to really understand that economy and stock markets there might take you, some time. And no broker there is going to give you the time of day anyway to sit down with you and talk to you about this. But the way that we value our foreign investors, regardless whether they're diasporan or the big fund managers, it's to the fact that someone is going to call you every day or send you an email every day and tell you what is going on. And then lastly, I would say this. I would really like a situation with the way that your eyes have been opened by being in a developed world to also structure what you believe could be traded on our capital markets. I'll give you an example. We've got 3 stock exchanges right now. Okay, everybody knows the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. I've mentioned the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. But an idea came to us for an alternative trading platform, which we really classify as our 3rd exchange. And we had no rules or regulations to register such a thing. In less than 3 months, we came up with the laws to allow such a platform to trade because we believe that it was good for the market, right? So if you come to us and say that, look, I've seen this thing happen in, I don't know, Bermuda or in Singapore or wherever it is that you are, that I've seen this thing work. And I believe that, everything is right in Zimbabwe to do something similar, right? Trust me, the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe will work with you to draft the necessary laws for that to happen. We're talking now of ETFs. Again, our laws previously, yes, we're a bit backward there, I'll admit, but we're actually working with industry players to make these things happen, right? So don't just be limited by what you're seeing right now, but I'll challenge you that use the time and the opportunity that you have there being in the diaspora to also become entrepreneurial, and bring ideas here that you believe can benefit our capital markets and give a good return as well. Look, I could go on, but I'll end here for now and I'll wait for any questions that you have. But really, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And we look forward to more workshops like this and more engagements like this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Quite a very interesting presentation there. The ability to trade on the phone. I think technology is very interesting. We should leverage on that. Interesting stats there. Like you said, the deputy minister is here. So, but the long and short of what you said is that the capital markets are outperforming even the parallel markets. I think that's a very common. I think I actually had this discussion with some colleagues who argue that changing your money into forex is an investment, and I think you've just rightfully answered that to say, that is not growth really, even if you are using any market. So the fact that the capital markets are outperforming any market out there, let me just say any market, that's very interesting. And that book that you mentioned, the Investor Book 101, I actually have a copy of it. I'm one of those people who struggles in general to read books, but the audiobook, I think it's a very wonderful book. I listen to it, when I'm driving and the likes, and I think that is a game changer. So I think, you spoke about so many other things, the VFX, the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, and how that is in foreign currency. so I think the opportunities are there. There are just so many, and I don't think we could do justice to them in this webinar, like you rightfully said. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're not doing very well in terms of time. Moving on, we've got Davison Charamba, the ICAZ Senior Vice President. He's based in the diaspora. So he's just going to come in and react to what has been mentioned and then perhaps raise a few more points from the diaspora. Thank you. Over to you, Davison.
Thank you, Owen, and all protocol observed. Like you have indicated, I'm in the diaspora and involved in raising capital to invest back home. So I've got specific questions, discussion points, thoughts and reflections that I would want maybe the Honorable Minister, the authorities from ZIDA, and His Excellency and the relevant people maybe to consider. I'm a rational economic being, so the questions that then arise are those economic questions by an economic player. And I think the one big question that you always have, being in the diaspora, being a rational player, like I say, is can I invest my hard-earned cash in Zimbabwe? And I can say I've often struggled with a resounding yes. And when you start thinking about investing in ZIM, I think when the deputy minister spoke about the remittances is mostly consumption. When you think about investing, if someone asks you about investing in ZIM, you already start thinking about a very short payback period. And Ms. Chinamo started talking about patient capital. And I think that is where the balance becomes more of a problem. Let's face it, capital is very shy, and it's especially where it's shunned. And maybe the case of Zimbabwe is an interesting case. I understand about the depth of it has been alluded to. The one thing that I normally remind my colleagues is that Zimbabwe was the second largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa after South Africa. And to me, that speaks about the potential we have as Zimbabwe. Then the question is, what can we do to harness that? Or what are the missing pieces, as it were, to harness that potential? And the elephants in the room have been mentioned. I will just pick some issues that maybe have not been picked, but mostly I've categorized them in five categories. So the first issue talks to the opaqueness of government policies. And when you are in the diaspora, you are not very much in line with what's happening on the ground. Things are happening fast. And then you hear about policies that are pronounced and they are happening tomorrow. The issue is you don't have enough time to restructure your balance sheet. And in most cases, you hear the industry complaining, and it then appears that there is actually no engagement. And you start wondering, so what's informing those policies? If you want it to be a tripartite, an engagement exercise, why is the government not engaging the investors? Because there's an investor community there where there are efficient capital markets. And part of being an efficient capital market is about transparency. And if you follow these international financial radio stations, TV stations, you find your power being asking tough questions and coming forth with and answering them and giving guiding pronouncements so that people have got an expectation about interest rates, an expectation about the stimulus programs. Why does that seem like it just doesn't happen in ZIM? And that becomes very difficult. As long as we are not transparent about what's happening, if I'm outside, I have some hesitation about investing my hard-earned cash. And that speaks to the second issue then about property rights. So engagement is good, and I applaud ICAZ with what we are doing. And I'm a member of the Presidium in the diaspora, and there's an intentionality to do something. So there are policies there. So in terms of property rights, we want to see the baby steps. There has been resettled farmers, not even A1 or A2. We are talking about resettled farmers from, say, 1983 land reform, and they are still on some permits that have no security whatsoever. Can we start seeing some title deeds, some secure property rights being given to those farmers so that we are sure? You still hear of threats of land repossessions, and you start thinking even about the madness of the election cycle that we always have, and we'll be getting into one soon. And land is always used because there isn't security of tenure. Can we start seeing some baby steps towards those, and even the A1 and A2, where there's still some offer letter that can be revoked? Then the third thing is real about the government economic policy. Are we a capitalist economy, or are we a socialist economy? The deputy minister is here. What policies are we pursuing? We continuously hear of command programs. So are we a command economy, or is command economy the new economy? And what sectors are under command, so that we know which areas to play, and what is the government's program towards such activities and the related stimulus and funding that goes towards those areas. As long as there is no clarity on what government intention is, capital will flow to where the government intentions are very clear. Then current issues. I'm happy I've heard about repatriation of dividends, and that's very good, and that's very good on paper. And I don't think over the last 20 years, we have done very poorly with coming up with very good blueprints that are never implemented, and it's on record. And for people who have lost their savings twice, I mean, we are not talking of just once, twice, 2008 and 2013. I participated in the ZSE in 2010 when the USD was introduced, and lo and behold, 2013, you have got a one-on-one, which we knew was a fallacy, and the next thing, the savings are gone. There's no return to talk about. I mean, the next thing, that company is already calling for more capital. Now there will always be this possible devaluation of US dollar investments. What exactly? How am I protected? It's not very clear. We can say you can repatriate your dividends, but what vehicles, what structures are there in place that says, look, if this doesn't happen, these are the punitive measures? Because at the end of the day, once I was beaten, then twice shy. So I need to have something tangible, something that I can hold on to and say, look, this is an instrument. So in terms of getting some credence, what is the policy? What is government doing? What is maybe ZIDA doing in terms of having a policy that I can call, or an instrument that I can call? And sometimes maybe think around that instrument should not be in country, maybe list it somewhere or have some security somewhere, because you gotta earn that trust, because currently that trust is not there, and we gotta think around that area. For those who lost their savings and mutual funds, as you are speaking, people who are still getting safe funds from retirement funds from old mutual, which are pittance after lifetime investment, it becomes very unfair. And for those who actually lost, what is the process in terms of compensation? We had US dollars that became RTGS and bond, or we had ZIM dollars that became worthless. And when there was a conversion into US dollars, the then governor told us that he was going to pay, compensate those who have lost. And up to now, nothing has happened, absolutely nothing, and there's no talk. That can bode very well for someone who is outside. Then the last thing is about intentionality of this economic participation. And as I say, talk is cheap. But what exactly, apart from maybe having that one-stop shop, are we then doing in terms of this engagement? We have got the virtual engagement. In terms of maybe the embassies, are we going to have some sectors, some tenders, something that then says we are engaging you. We want you to participate, because when people ask about the fact that it's maybe foreign companies or foreigners who are favored, what is then the government doing to make sure that Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora are not like second-class citizens? They are not excluded in their own countries. I mean, some of these things are shown as in some simple ways, which like in the queues, queues at the airport, where you, as a citizen, you are not even given the right treatment, but a British citizen is given a favorable treatment. What are we doing in terms of intentionality? Issues of tax concessions, importation hurdles. I actually did an experiment the other time crossing the border, went maybe into South Africa. I cleared my car. There were only one desk and the police, and I had cleared my car. You get into Zimbabwe, Plumtree border posts, you actually have to do six stations before you have cleared your car. And some of them are just frivolous. Why are we doing that? Isn't there a way we can improve and become efficient? Because the moment you are inefficient, you are then encouraging corruption. And that's the other elephant in the room. What are we doing to make sure that we are efficient and we don't encourage corruption? Because as long as the system is efficient, nobody wants to pay that black tax. Why don't we make our system more and more efficient, so that I can confidently say the system is working in Zimbabwe and I want to put my money there? And just to take note of the good things, like vaccination. I actually came home to be vaccinated. That's the good stories, the excellent stories that we want. And we have got personal testimony that now Zimbabwe is open for business in terms of that efficiency. I mean, those are my remarks, reflections, and I'll be happy to hear some responses to those. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Davidson. I think those were hard-hitting questions, if I can use that phrase. You raised your points in 5 categories. In fact, a very interesting point in terms of what Davidson has actually just raised, and the questions that I can see in the Q&A, as well as what's going on in the chat. So they are kind of aligned. So what I'll do is I'll try and then just perhaps direct the questions from Davidson and to the panelists, and also pick on a few from the other attendees, although most of them are essentially aligned. The challenge that we will probably have is there are so many questions. So what we will have to do, what we are going to do, we are going to respond to all the questions in writing and email them out to the participants, because there are just so many questions. But the key ones, I think we'll just quickly go through those and then respond to the rest of the questions in the form of a document, which we will share with the participants. All right, so maybe just to kickstart, the Q&A, I'm going to perhaps just ask the ambassador to touch on some of the questions that have been raised. I think we did have questions that came through from Davison. We've also had a question around the voting for the diaspora. I know you did type out a response, Ambassador, but maybe just in a few seconds, really, just to try and respond and react to that particular question on the voting, and then the other issues that Davison has just raised.
Thank you. Regarding the issue of diaspora voting, I say that there is an ongoing review of the diaspora policy, and people are free to make their contributions in terms of how they would want to see this voting right realized. Of course, I mean, we need to learn from the best practices of other countries, whereby the diaspora are playing a critical role, especially by way of their tax obligations going to their countries. So there is need for us to be able to balance the right to vote with the obligations by the diaspora to fulfill certain basics and fundamentals, for their voice to be heard, as well as for whatever contributions they make to get to the intended beneficiaries. I mean, how those contributions can benefit the economy at large. So basically, this is an ongoing discussion. We also need to address the issue of access to the diaspora, in a context where some persons belonging to certain or some political players have easier access to get to where the diaspora is as compared to those who may be under some travel restrictions. So there is need also to level the playing field where it comes to the campaign process, to mobilize the diaspora support. So this is just the start of a discussion. I think what eventually emerges as policy will be informed by quite a number of contributions, as well as best practices learned from other jurisdictions. So that is as it is in terms of the diaspora vote. The other questions, I think, are best responded to by the Honorable Minister, as well as by the respective agencies that are co-hosting this platform.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I think that was a very, I know you had answered it before, but I just wanted to have you touch on it again, because I know it keeps coming back. So I think that's something that really needs to kind of be put to bed. So thank you so much for that response. And then, Honorable Deputy Minister, I'm going to come to you next. We have questions in terms of policies. I know you touched on this earlier in your presentation, in terms of the policies, the lead time for pronouncements, and then, the fact that sometimes you get complaints from industry, although probably not all the time, but in some instances, in terms of those policies. And then there was a question around command in terms of maybe just clarity around the command issue, command policies. And then, of course, again, I think our issues kind of keep coming back, the currency issues. He spoke about how people lost a bit of money in 2008 and 2013. And then in terms of what structures are now in place, and the suggestion was to have something listed elsewhere. Again, this issue was raised in the Q&A as well. And then perhaps after you respond to those issues, there are also issues around the parallel market, closing that. There was also a comment, I think it wasn't all negative in terms of how our inflation has come down from around 837% to around 56%. I think that was just someone complimenting and saying, how did we do that? And perhaps you can also touch on that as well in terms of how we've managed to tame inflation and how we are then perhaps going to tame the parallel market and close that gap. So I know it's quite a lot, Honorable, but please take the podium and respond to those.
Thank you, Owen. Yeah, I will not respond in any specific order. I'll just pick the issues. I will respond to the first one on how we managed to reduce the inflation rate from 837 as of July last year to where it is now, which is on 50.6%. I attribute the decline in the inflation rate to a program where we said the new dispensation is saying we should live within our means. So we said, in order for us to reduce the inflation rate, which we targeted as our enemy number one, we said there is a need for fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline where we lived within our means, following what we call program-based budgeting. So if you check from 2018 up to now, we have never used our recourse to the RBZ. We have never borrowed from the RBZ. We just survive on what we have. So this has assisted us as part of our fiscal discipline measures, managing expenditures and enhancing our revenue collection means. Then the other issue which we also took very seriously is targeting demand supply. There is a serious linkage that is there between inflation and demand supply growth. And we had said in order for us to contain inflation, we targeted demand supply growth not to exceed 25%. And we've managed that. So these are some of the measures that we have adopted and used to ensure that we contain inflation rate. And this is why the inflation has been on a downward trend from 837 in July last year up to where it is now, which is 50.6%. Then the other issue that has been raised is on the opaqueness of government policy. Looking at where we are coming from and where we are, I think we've been very transparent with regards to the formulation of government policy. Just looking at the Vision 2030, the National Development Strategy, we included everyone. Even if you check the principles where we said leaving no one behind, we are taking the policies from the grassroots going up. And this is even evidenced by some of the international indices of transparency. Just look at the Budget Transparency Index. We are one of the performing in Africa, the best performing. And then you also look at the road shows that we have had. All that is part of the participatory approach that we have taken as a government. And we will continue to improve on that. Even if you check the diaspora engagement that we are doing, it's actually part of refining our government policy. And this is participatory, and we would want to continue to improve on that. Then the other issue that has been raised is the issue of property rights. The example that has been used on the Global Compensation Agreement, it is actually part of our engagement and re-engagement efforts. And one area that is very critical for us in order for us to attract investment is the issue of respect for property rights. And this is why we have committed ourselves as a government to say we are going to sign the Global Compensation Agreement, and we are honoring it. And we are at a stage where we have engaged the financial experts to assist us in raising financing. This is also, again, with regards to BIPAS. Again, we are honoring the BIPAS. All this is part of respect for property rights. You have mentioned the issue of resettled farmers. It is upon the farmers who have been given offer letters to go to the Ministry of Lands to apply for lease agreements. And this is ongoing. And we are encouraging our farmers, the ones with offer letters, to convert them to lease agreements by approaching the Ministry of Lands so that they can approach for leases. Then the other issue which has been raised is, what type of economy are we? We are a market-based economy with socialist principles. The market is not always efficient. The market fails. So if you check our Vision 2030, you check our National Development Strategy 1, it is very clear that we would want our economic development agenda, our economic development trust to be private sector led. But where the market fails, we intervene as a government. So this is a market-based economy where we are looking at forces of demand and supply. But in cases where the market fails, then there is obviously government intervention. This is why, even if you look at our National Development Strategy 1, we are saying leaving no one behind. And these are cases where there are social interventions. And we've done social interventions. We've done interventions with regards to the BEAM, which is under education. We assist the elderly. We assist those who are vulnerable. These are cases where the market fails. So in broad terms, we are a market-based economy, but we intervene where the market fails. Then the issue of command economy. Command economy is just a term that was adopted once or so by the media. But if you check where the government intervened, we had cases of low confidence levels where the private sector was not coming in, especially with regards to agriculture, and the government had to intervene. But now we have got a policy that is called smart agriculture, where the private sector is the one that is leading in the financing of agriculture. And we have got agro yield, we have got the land bank, we have got Standard Bank. All these are assisting in our smart agriculture policy. And this is assisting us as a government. And there is nothing command, but we have smart agriculture that is private sector led. And then with regards to compensation due to exchange rate losses, when we moved away from the exchange rate of 1:1, this is an issue that is getting all the attention from RBZ. I've got some specific dates which I may not be able to mention now, but the RBZ is working on the compensation, and there is commitment on the part of the government that we need to compensate those who suffered the exchange rate loss because of the policy shift. Then importation hurdles. If we had followed, we also benefited from COVID, where we had now embraced digital technology, which is one of the critical priority areas under the National Development Strategy 1. When we are importing cars, when we are bringing in goods and services through the formal borders, you do what is called the pre-clearance. No clearance is taking place at the border now. You send all the invoices, you send all the bill of flooding via our email systems. Everything is cleared before you reach the border. When you reach the border, it is just a matter of presenting the paperwork. Nothing is going to be done. When you reach the border, it is just a matter of presenting the paperwork, and then you proceed. So this again is dealing with what you referred to as black tax, which are rent-seeking behavior, and we have tried to minimize that And this again is in line with what we have said. We need to minimize on artificial bottlenecks and making sure that there is zero tolerance on corruption. Then the issue of the non-convergence between the official rates and the parallel market rates. What determines exchange rate is the reserves that we have as a country. If you check the US dollar deposits that we have in our banking system, we are sitting at around 1.9 billion US dollars. You look at the current accounts, we are getting more export receipts as compared to imports. We've got a current account surplus. All those measures, if you use the normal economics, our currency is supposed to be strengthening. Our currency, in terms of what is obtaining in the parallel market, is not determined by fundamentals. Looking at fundamentals, our exchange rate is supposed to be strengthening. Looking at even the SDRs that we got 961 million US dollars. All these are pointers that are pointing to a currency that is supposed to be strengthening. We are working on an exercise now where we are calculating the effective exchange rate for our ZIM dollar, and all pointers are pointing to a stronger dollar as compared to what it is now. So what is determining the exchange rate? There is a lot of speculation that is happening in the market. Obviously, this speculation can also show that there are some market inefficiencies, but we are working on ensuring that even what is obtaining on the auction floor, it should also reflect the fundamentals that are in the market. So it is work in progress. We are looking at it to ensure that gradually we should move towards a fully market-determined exchange rate. So these are the issues that are ongoing, and your contributions are also assisting us in ensuring that we shape our policies and ensure that the policies that were put in place are investor-friendly, and you will be our ambassadors. So I submit for now. If there are any other questions, I will take them up. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you, Honorable. I think your responses were very clear. I hope our diasporans are now answered, and they are more informed and happier than they were prior to this webinar. I think it's very important to have this kind of honest discussion and have these responses come through, from senior government officials such as yourself. It really serves very well to build the confidence, and we can really tell the correct story in terms of what's really going on. Okay, so I think in terms of most of the issues that were raised, we have had responses from His Excellency and from the Honorable Deputy Minister. There are also some other questions which I would like to. I'm going to start with Mr. Shinamo and direct just a few questions to him in terms of the structure of ZSE, in terms of the ability to handle high volume and high frequency algorithmic trading. Sounds very technical. Please try and give us a slightly simpler response, which will talk to everyone. Interesting fact, most of the people on this call are actually not accountants. The webinar has been heavily subscribed by other professionals. And then I think there was a question around how ZSE Direct requires a local number, and maybe a few other questions that I just try and pick on the really key ones. Like I mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a more formal response to these questions in writing, because the engagement has pretty much been more than I had anticipated, which is really good. I think that was the idea anyway. So, Mr. Shinamo, over to you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, okay, I'll start with the ZSE Direct. So this is a platform that the stock exchange itself set up to allow individual investors to access the market directly. And the question here was that you require a local form. So this is phase one of it. I think part of the solution was in coming up with VFX, because now if you're outside, the issue is always going to be the exchange rates. And they had not figured out yet, I think, just out to the end of that part of it. So primarily it was targeted initially for the local player. It can help you, however, just to get a feel of the market. There is a similar platform, much older than that one, called C-Trade. This one, again, same sort of things, but it uses mainly mobile money to buy shares on the. I've got it on my phone. I would have shared it with you, but it's a very simple platform, very simple to create an account, and even to do the trades. It's very, very simple. This one, actually, with your Visa card, you can actually trade. But then again, it's all this question of what exchange rates and so forth. So for that reason, it's not very popular with people outside. So I'll urge someone who maybe just to follow the market. That's a very easy way of doing it. But for the actual trades right now, I would still say that maybe go through a broker in the normal ways, because these platforms, while they're informative, they don't really give you that base value, or the systems to integrate a foreign payment are better done elsewhere. Then high frequency trading, but maybe for those who don't understand this, nowadays in the big economies, especially in the US, on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, it's possible when the markets open at 9 in the morning, when the bell rings to start trading, you can actually buy and sell the same share in milliseconds, right? So because again, shares, there are all types of investors. Some study fundamentals, some study charts, but other people believe that within a day, because of those opening price, closing price, low, day high, and so forth, within those little movements, money can be made. So if you're moving hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, right? You're okay just making perhaps a margin of 0.1% after costs. So you buy Microsoft at now, you sell it within seconds, right? After it just moved that little bit. Yeah. So for you to do those sort of things, you need very liquid markets. I mean here that markets that are trading a serious number of shares. In this country, we are looking per day. On a good day, we can hit about 800 trades in a day. In terms of value, that's about $2 million US. So it will not be possible for you to then do those turnarounds, those trades like that. What the market currently doesn't allow right now, but I'm hoping that within the next few months that we'll be able to do so, is what. So these high frequency trading, it's essentially what we call in this country turnaround trades, where you're buying and selling the same share within the same trading session, right? So for those who have traded in the past, actually before we automated, we used to do that. But with automation, because of the fears that people had about this, we postponed it, but we want to bring it back. So that's the first step, these turnaround trades. And then there was another I think the response from the diaspora was that, there's none of this trust that I can actually put my US dollar into the ZIM environment and then, be confident about it. Like I said, look, capital markets have been doing this for years. And I'm talking here of your Merrill Lynch's, Investex, your big financial institutions have been investing money here because the returns are worth it, which is why it's important on our part to always start with the education. That people have to understand, how these markets work. So we go beyond, the normal call of duty to ensure that before you invest in these markets, you will understand them. But if the returns are good, I can assure you, even in whatever currency you're dealing with, those returns will still be great. This is why this market is still an attraction for big institutional foreign investors. And I'm saying to myself, if these big behemoths are investing in this market, certainly it says something about the sort of infrastructures that we have and the confidence that we give them for them to invest in this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you tried to simplify it a bit there in terms of these high frequency algorithms and everything, all these big words. But I think in terms of the other questions that I have, you know, there are just so many of them. I just wanted to maybe turn to Tino with just a few questions, you know. The first question is a pretty simple one in terms of whether ZIDA has offices, you know, outside of Harare. And then there's also a suggestion to have a diaspora complaints and resolutions policy. Maybe you can also touch on that to say, you know, is there some policy in terms of complaints and resolution in terms of when someone has concerns around investments? And I think the other question is around, you know, a level playing field where perhaps tax incentives can be granted to certain new players and then somewhat disadvantage perhaps the existing players in the market. I think just those three, and any other reaction that you perhaps may have. Over to you, Tina.
Thanks, Owen. Thanks a lot, and thank you for those questions. I think I'll just tackle the first one as it came. So ZIDA offices, I think you'd also just appreciate that we're a brand new baby. We've only been, I mean, thinking that COVID only really kind of ended like now. We haven't been able to actually be out there as much as we would want to. So in terms of offices, what we've done is we've got regional offices, mainly centered around Harare and Bulawayo. But what we've done now is we've engaged the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we have written a letter for us to formally engage all our embassies outside country and all the embassies inside country. So we're going to be having discussions with the ambassadors of foreign countries that are in Zimbabwe to let them know what we are doing, you know, what has changed in Zim, what laws have changed, how are we aligning to the constitution, what incentives are we giving, what projects do we have, right? At the same time, we're also now going to be engaging the foreign missions. And Your Excellency, Wachfamba, when we wrote to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to let them know about this, this webinar, we had also written them another letter to say that we want to engage people in the diaspora. So they called me and they said, you know, is this the same thing? And I said, no, these are two different issues. This is a webinar. The other one is going to be engaging. So I think soon you will hear about that, Your Excellency. We've already sent those letters and that documentation. So our main mode of communication is going to be through embassies. We also have planned, we're planning, we're just resource mobilizing in opening ZIDA offices in key areas. You know, if you look at the majority of our diaspora, you're looking at the Americas, you're looking South Africa, definitely. You're looking, I think if we look at ICAZ, if you look at where the majority of your members are, I think that generally speaks to where the majority of the diasporans are. So we will be opening offices in due time. Of course, please understand, we're a brand new baby. You know, we're still getting to our resource base that we want to. So yes, ZIDA offices will be coming to a place near you, hopefully, hopefully soon. And yeah, we'll be engaging you through your embassies, definitely. And then diaspora complaints and resolution, if you go on www.zidainvest.com/diaspora, we actually have a tab specifically dedicated to diaspora. That's how serious we take our diaspora. So yeah, you can visit that. It's on our website. You can go check it out right now. And then, sorry, Owen, you mentioned a level playing field. So can you just repeat that question?
Okay, so this one came from Tumai. He was asking in terms of, you know, the incentives that are given to new entrants into the market. For example, your tax incentives. You know, just around whether then that doesn't, you know, negatively affect perhaps existing players in that field.
No, I hear you. So, and that's a very valid point. because you look at someone who's been in the industry for 50 years, right? And then you're saying, why are you giving a new entrant incentives versus someone who's been paying X amount of tax over a long period of time? So at ZIDA, if you look at it, I'll give you an example. We have been working with the Ministry of Finance. We just, and the Ministry of Mines. We just came through with an amendment to, to the Gold Act, right? So what we're saying now is how we're looking at it going forward is to say, if you are going to explore additional new claims in gold, you get the incentives, 100% retention over X number of years, your corporate tax, blah, 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 right? So even if real ZIM is going to, so they'll continue paying tax, normal tax on what they've been paying on, but we're encouraging you to explore further. So you now have an incentive to explore further on the new territory. You see what I'm saying? That's how we're kind of looking at it, and we're trying to encourage it in that format. But I think when we look back at incentives as well, it's about stimulating a certain area or a certain economic agenda. So it doesn't stop anyone from pursuing it. So even if you're an existing person in that industry, or you want to set up another company to do that, nothing is stopping you. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I think the gold one is a good example of how ZIDA is looking at it. It's an issue of giving everyone the opportunity to participate in the new opportunity. So new claims, additional gold being delivered to Fidelity, then gets that incentive. I think, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tino. I think the questions have been adequately responded to, but they are still flowing. Ladies and gentlemen, like I committed to earlier, we will respond to all your questions formally and send out written responses to all the questions. By and large, I think we did touch on the issues in general in terms of the broad categories of issues that were raised. So I think in terms of our time, we are slightly, or we've overshot a little bit, or probably not just a little bit. But I think it was important because this engagement for me was the most important part where people can raise their questions, and I hope they were adequately responded to. I felt that most of the questions were responded. In fact, all of them were pretty much responded to very adequately and by very senior officials who took their time to be with us. So perhaps before I hand over to the CEO for closing remarks, I will just literally 30 seconds just to our panelists a parting shot, starting with His Excellency, just maybe your final message, just a minute or less. And over to you, Ambassador.
Well, thanks to you and thanks to all participants. I think this was a very, very good start. Just the degree of excitement, even in the chat box or on the question and answer platform, shows that we are on a good road to continuous engagement. I just want to appeal to all Zimbabweans, both at home and abroad, to say, although we are targeting the diaspora in this kind of conversation, there is nothing that is stopping Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe to identify potential partners in the diaspora to take advantage of the investment opportunities back home. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Honorable Chidua, your parting shot in just a few seconds.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to thank you for this opportunity, but mostly I would want to thank all those in the diaspora for taking this time to get to know the opportunities that are here at home. But what I would want to also say to them is, the policy thrust that we have, we are going to bring it to the diaspora community so that they can see the opportunities that are in Zimbabwe. And this is going to happen very soon, because we can see that the COVID is receding. So thank you so much. And when you are there, you are our ambassadors, and know that Zimbabwe is open for business and we are walking the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Tino, just a few seconds, your parting shot from ZIDA.
Thanks, Owen. I think this is an exciting time for our country. I think Zimbabwe is the last frontier, to be honest. Obviously, there's a lot of hurt that has happened. There's a lot of, we need to build bridges again, but I think we need to take some of these punches on the chin. Davison, there's a lot of things that you said that I wish I could have responded to on how we're planning on tackling some of these things. But look, everything starts in a day. America was built over 400 years, we're only 40. I think it's the first step in the right way. If we do things right, we can leapfrog and jump some of these countries. And I really honestly do believe in our country. And with your help, especially people in the diaspora and local people as well who are here, let's look at domestic direct investment, whether it's diasporans or the actual Zimbabweans. Let's invest in our country. Let's build our country. Let's do it together. Let's do it for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We only have one Zimbabwe. And then, Mr. Shinamo, your parting shot.
Okay, thank you, Owen. Pretty much like Tino said, I think the opportunities are certainly here. It's a pity that when we speak of foreign investors, it's not our diaspora who's enjoying this benefit. And trust me when I say this, that we treat all foreigners the same. We don't discriminate. I mean, whether you are Zimbabwe living abroad or not, but the opportunities are there. And again, for us in the capital market, this is exciting times. We are rewriting our laws every day to allow new products. We are making them more retail friendly. And with the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, again, the opportunities for you to even transact with your Visa card, that's going to be a possibility. So I'd say that just keep in touch. We are very much open to contact. If you want us to phone you, to email you, please let us know. Just go to our website.
Okay, thank you so much. That was interesting. Finally, last but not least, our member from the diaspora, Davison, over to you. Your parting shot.
Yeah, and thank you, Owen. Thank you to the ambassador and to the minister, to the deputy minister, and all the panelists. I also want to appreciate the people who logged in, answered to that call of duty. I would want to believe that we are all here because we love Zimbabwe. And so when we robustly engage, the reason is our endearment to our country. And like I said at the beginning, if I believe in Zimbabwe and run with my dollars to put it in Zimbabwe, it will then attract others to also come and invest. We are the ambassadors of this country. And just a reminder that we, at some point, were the second largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. That gives me hope, and we need to get back there, and we need to get back there fast. Thank you, ICAZ, for also arranging this. Good night.
Thank you so much, Dave. So we will certainly get there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm now just going to hand over to Gloria Sharawanu, the CEO, to just give us a few closing remarks.
Owen, thank you very much. I think you handled this conversation very, very well. And what a pleasing engagement this has been. I think exceeding our expectation in terms of the level of interest, the contributions, the suggestions, the questions. And, I think we, as promised, we are definitely going to put all this together into a document, reach out to the other authorities who are not represented here. We have head of the diaspora desk in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We will also hear from them and ensure that we incorporate how they can be reached, and what they are doing in terms of engagement, and put all this in the document that we will share. So we will ask that you be patient with us, because we have a number of such conversations that we're going to be having over the next couple of weeks. And hopefully we will then consolidate all the questions that are coming through, all the insights that are coming from these various conversations, and have you a rich document that you can use. So thank you so much, Honorable Achidua, for being with us tonight, and all the insights that you provided. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador. We really appreciate the time. We also appreciate the engagements that you're doing with the diaspora community in the various forums that you're also engaging with. I think there's a lot that has been happening or is going to be happening based on what has been shared in this platform as far as engagement of our diasporans, and we really hope that we will keep the engagement tops as it has been in this particular session. Thank you very much, Davidson, for your insights. Certainly summing up a lot of the questions that were coming through into the chat there. Thank you so much, Tino and Ms. Dudu from ZIDA. For your insights there. And I think a lot of people did not know about the new agency, or the reformed agency as it were. And I think, Tino, you have articulated it very well. You've shared lots of information, and hopefully in our document we'll provide again more contact details, so that we almost create a go-to kind of document that takes care of all the questions that have been asked here. Tafadzwa, thank you so much for the insights from SEC. Thank you for the opportunities that you have shared that are available in the capital markets. Thank you as well for the material that you're churning out. I personally have listened to the videos, and I've seen the handbook. I think it's very useful, and I do encourage members to visit the SEC website to download the handbook. The audios are also circulating via WhatsApp. I think we'll find a way to also try and see if we can post on our own ICAZ WhatsApps, and very useful information that is being shared there. So we thank you so much. Just to acknowledge the president of the Institute, Tumai, thank you for having been with us in the discussion as well. And lastly, Owen, thank you. For managing this and managing it very well. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you.
In February 2020, the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency Act was signed into law. This brought ZIDA to life. Now, what exactly is ZIDA, and why do we need it? The Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency is a statutory body that was born from an act of parliament. Its biggest job is the promotion and protection of investments in Zimbabwe. ZIDA exists to make it easier for a business to invest in the country. ZIDA is a one-stop shop for local and foreign investors. What does this mean? Here's what was happening before. Before ZIDA, investors had to deal with many different agencies. These included the Zimbabwe Investment Authority, ZIA, the Joint Ventures Unit Act, the Zimbabwe Special Economic Zones Authority, ZIMSESA, and the one-stop shop, OSISC. These agencies have all now been brought under one roof as ZIDA. To invest in Zimbabwe, an investor needed many licenses. This meant that they had to go from one government department to the other. They had to go to ZIMRA, the Register of Companies, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority, councils, NSSA, EMA, and other arms of government. All this red tape discouraged investors, both local and foreign. Now, an investor will not need to go to all these departments. All these services will now be offered under one roof at ZIDA. This is the one-stop shop. Already, ZIDA has been involved in facilitating successful investments into Zimbabwe. This includes new investments in mining, agriculture, manufacturing, energy, and other key sectors of the economy. It is also ZIDA's mandate to assess all investment transactions. This is to make sure that they are done transparently and for the benefit of the country. This includes joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, public-private sector partnerships, and all other investments into Zimbabwe. ZIDA also works with local companies to help them increase exports via bilateral relationships with other countries. Zimbabwe is making it easier for investors to enter the market. Zimbabwe is illustrating that we are truly open for business. ZIDA is a major part of that progress. Come to our one-stop shop. Come, let ZIDA help you access investment in Zimbabwe.